the best one. All right, it looks like we're live. You want to wait a couple more minutes and we'll see who else pops in. Thanks to everyone who's joined us. We're just going to wait another minute or two to give people a chance to respond to the prompt that the live has started. And then we'll do a brief presentation, give you a bit of an overview of the program. And then if you have any questions, we'll be sticking around a while after to answer those. Hey, Steffi.
Hey, sorry, I think I came in as a student and I was very confused as to what was happening.
Yeah, that was me about 3 hours ago. All right, so I may as well begin. I'll start just by sharing my screen for my slideshow. Let's see, right here. I will briefly introduce the program and everyone who's here today. I'll call upon my colleagues to help sort of describe aspects of the program that they're affiliated with. And then if you have questions, you can type them in. Steffi, Katie, and Sarah will be able to help answer some of those. Unfortunately, the way this is set up, I can't see you while I'm presenting. So if there's anything that where it would make sense for me to stop and address a question related to the content of the slides, my colleagues will let me know so that I can pause and make sure that I'm answering your question. So welcome. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Vicky Mcarthur. I'm the program director for the Bachelor of Media Production and Design program. I'm a professor at Carleton University, and I teach one of the first year courses in the program. So here I'm just going to present a bit of an overview of our program, what we're doing, how some of the courses are structured, as well as some of the projects that are coming out at each of the years of the program. So we first launched in the fall of 2018. We're actually a relatively new program on campus. We're sort of housed in the School of Journalism and Communication, but our program is partly supported by the School of Information Technology. So we're actually a partnership between two very distinct but interrelated programs at Carleton. Most of the first years in our programs actually come from grade 12. We do have some people at Carleton who transfer into the program, but the bulk of the first year students, should you decide to join us, will be coming from sort of a similar background to you. Our goal in the program is actually to keep our cohorts to a maximum of 60 students. And the way we structure each semester of each year is as follows. The fall courses are usually a little bit more theory-based, and we tend to have all 60 of the same cohort take those slightly larger classes together. It's not quite as big as university classes can get, but it's still a fairly large size. And then in the winter of each year, we break you off into two smaller sections of about 25 or 30 and do more hands-on work. And so what's really nice is we build up some theory, some background in the first part of each year, and then we break off into slightly smaller teams so you can sort of get your hands dirty doing some solo projects, some group projects, and getting a bit more attention and hands-on instruction from each professor. So our admission requirements for the program, our high school prerequisites are English and grade 12 math. The preferred math is advanced functions plus the next four highest 4M or 4U credits, but there are other math courses that are accepted. It's just the preferred is the advanced functions. And that is because there's some computer programming in our program. It's not the same as going into a computer engineering or software engineering program or computer science. It's sort of just one component of what we do, and we don't get to the same level of programming as those disciplines would do. So because we do introduce some basic Python programming, a little bit of HTML and CSS, some JavaScript, just the kind of stuff you would use in the background to either create interactive digital media pieces or maybe work on a web page. We like that advanced functions background just because it sets you up for some of the types of logical thinking that you'll be doing in those programming courses. The projected grade 12 cutoff average is approximately 79 to 80%, depending, of course, on how many applications we get to the program each year. And unlike some other programs like this, there is no portfolio requirement, so it's just a standard application to the program without any supplementary materials. So it's a 4-year, 20-credit degree program, and as I mentioned before, it's led by the School of Journalism and Communication, but supported by the Carleton School of Information Technology. Our program combines nonfiction storytelling, not dissimilar to what they would do in journalism, with online design and computer programming. The program actually was created by recognizing a need that there are certain types of interactive digital stories that are being created by many different organizations, governments, NGOs, nonprofits, community partners, different sort of areas of work. But there wasn't a lot of training on how to present nonfiction stories, the types that journalists are usually working with, in these sort of intermediate or interactive formats. And so the program was basically designed to help people combine those sort of journalistic and nonfiction storytelling elements with the types of design considerations that interactive digital media designers have to consider. Our current roster, as it stands right now, Pam Lamba, who's not able to join us today, is our undergraduate administrator. So she handles a lot of the day-to-day stuff with the program. She's the first point of contact for academic advising because our program is so unique. Most students at Carleton might be going through a sort of central academic advising department whenever they have questions about their program progression or courses they should be adding or dropping. But because our program is so unique, our students actually go through Pam for all of that, and she's really fabulous. I'm the program director. We're also joined today by Steffi McKnight, who's an assistant professor in media production and design, who specializes in some really amazing stuff. And Katie Graham's also here. Do you guys want to say a brief word about yourselves?
Sure.
Steffi, you go first, okay?
So my name is Steffi McKnight. I am an assistant professor, as Vicky has mentioned, here in the program. I am currently based in Cataraqui, Kingston. I'm a white settler queer artist scholar, so my research is mostly based in research creation and the ways in which art fabricates research in its own right and in the production of it. But in terms of the content with this class, or sorry, with this program, my work ends up looking at art as digital storytelling, but also as fact-based. So you'll see a lot more art references if you're working with me, but also I focus a lot on the theory of it as well.
And I'm Katie Graham. So I am an instructor and I teach most of a lot of the second year courses, specifically visual communications. My background is actually architecture, but my focus in my research related to architecture is on how digital storytelling, specifically virtual reality, can tell the stories of spaces and places, and specifically cultural heritage spaces and places. So that's kind of the connection here, whereas now it's expanding to not just be stories of place, but stories that can be held in those places. So I'll leave it at that. I'm sure I'm going to talk more later. So.
Thanks, guys. And my research is sort of in the area of augmented reality and virtual reality. So I teach the winter first year course where you break up into 2 different teams, and we've been working in augmented reality. So basically looking at ways to tell different stories in AR, ways to support novice designers, and how our design considerations shift when we're moving from different forms of media. The other person who's unfortunately not able to join us today is Dr. Sojung Bang, who's a postdoctoral fellow and also an instructor in the program. And right now she's teaching our first year, first term course, Introduction to Storytelling. And I'm going to talk a little bit about her work in the context of the 3rd year course that she taught for us last year very soon. So our program structure, we have 12 core credits and 8 electives in the program. So of those core credits, a portion of them are coming from journalism. Some of them are courses that were developed specifically for media production and design. So courses in our program that focus on digital media storytelling. And then there's 3.5 credits in the School of Information Technology that sort of supplement some of the stuff we're doing in terms of storytelling with programming and different types of digital media skills. We also have a co-op option, so 12 months of paid work spread across 3 semesters, usually beginning in the 3rd year and arranged by Carleton. And in order to participate in the co-op, you need a B+ average within your Carleton grades. Minors are also possible as well. Within the 8.0 electives, there's 1.5 elective you'll be taking in Indigenous Studies, but the other 7.5 leaves a lot of room for minors in just about everything. And if you talk to some of the students that are here in our program, you'll find there are a lot of different minors that you might not have considered until you actually browse the lists that are there. I know some of the more common minors among our students are the entrepreneurship minor, because many of them are thinking about going into the sort of the social media business side of things when they leave us. There are others who are doing a minor in film, but there are lots of other different programs that you can add to your degree to sort of narrow down your specialization a bit more. So you can think of yourself as a a digital storyteller, but in a journalism context or a film context or an Indigenous studies context. So just depending on what your interests are when you come into the program. Over 4 years, students take some Mpad courses designed specifically for us, some existing iTech courses, and some journalism courses to basically help with students sort of building up this multidisciplinary background. In some cases, you're only with your media production and design cohort, but in other cases, you might be joining students in multimedia design for those iTech courses or in journalism for those journalism courses. And in the context of, say, your minor or electives, you'll be joining entirely different groups of students to learn those different subjects. So this is a rough program map, and it can be found on our website. But basically just shows you the progression of the course over the 4 years. So it's sort of read horizontally starting at the top, where you look at the courses that are red are existing information technology courses that our students will take. The courses that are yellow are the core media production and design courses that were created specifically for the program and are taught by the faculty who are here today. Then we have some green courses that are journalism courses that are cross-listed. So you'll be joining journalism students to learn some subjects that are relevant both to their discipline as well as your own. The sort of light teal colored courses are information technology courses that were created specifically for Bmpd. And then that leaves the light blue boxes that are scattered sort of all over the place to be your electives. So they can be, again, just breadth electives that you take. So some students are interested in Japanese, might take Japanese language. You can take courses in psychology, child and youth studies. Like there's all different types of majors that have courses available as electives that you can take if you want to check out those subjects. As well as I mentioned before, we've added a 0.5 credit, so 1/2 course in Indigenous studies in recognition of the fact that many of our students go on to create or help create digital stories for different organizations within Canada, and that many of those stories impact or potentially involve Indigenous peoples. And so to sort of give our students the additional context in Canadian history, we have the 0.5 elective that we've actually added this year. So this is our amazing building on campus, Richcraft Hall, formerly known as the River Building. This is normally where we would be meeting for this session. And this is where all the media production, design, and journalism offices are found on campus. But we also have a number of different lecture halls and seminar rooms, labs, all over campus in all different buildings where your courses might be. And although our offices are in one building, your courses with us even can be anywhere on campus. In much larger courses where there's hundreds of students, you might find yourself in a traditional lecture hall like the one pictured here. Or if you're in smaller classes, smaller seminars, or small specialized lectures, upper year courses, you may find yourself in a smaller lecture space like those that are pictured here. In many of our courses, we also get to use the active learning labs on campus, which are sort of my favorite because they kind of remind me of what sort of small tech startups look like. They have all different reconfigurable furniture. There's whiteboards literally everywhere. You can see the screens that are all over the room that can either be used to project one person's presentation, or students can also sort of throw their work up on there and show their class and walk them through different iterations on some of their design ideas. So it's a really great pedagogical space that supports all different types of workshopping, collaboration, solo work, presentation. And it's a really great space that we're fortunate to be able to use, given that there's only a certain number of classrooms that are this awesome. So in 1001 is a lecture style course. I just to go over a few courses here just to give you a bit of an example. So the focus is on the theory of digital storytelling and a background of digital storytelling, looking back to early interactive fiction, text-based HTML stories, looking at text-based adventure games from decades ago, going all the way through social media storytelling, looking at stories in video games, stories in augmented reality, virtual reality, 360 video, journalism, documentary. And then students in that course typically make a small prototype of a story on the medium that they're most interested in. So some of the ones that were shown here from current fourth year students who took the course with me 4 years ago, a VR music experience by student Jada Rogers, a story-based redesign of the Immigration Canada website by our student Sarah as well. In 1002, it's more of a workshop style course, so focuses on prototyping digital stories with industry partners. So as I mentioned previously, in the last couple of years, the students were focusing on augmented reality to develop interactive stories we worked for the first 2 years of the course with the Canadian Museum of Nature, which is a really, really nice partner. For those of you who might not be familiar with Ottawa, it's we have lots of museums here, actually. I'm not from Ottawa originally, so that kind of surprised me. But I like this museum in particular because they have 4 different floors, and each floor has 2 or 3 separate exhibits that feel like their own unique museums. And so it's a really great place to go for partner project work because each group of students can literally take a separate exhibit and explore entirely unrelated storytelling data to create really unique projects. So instead of, say, taking everybody to a warplane museum and you end up with 12 projects about warplanes, we can go to a museum like this and end up with one project on the Arctic and one on butterflies, one on dinosaurs and fossils, one on rocks, one on bugs. So it really lends itself really nicely to a lot of really diverse projects. Now, Katie, would you be able to talk a little bit about Mpad 2002?
Yeah, sure. And so Mpad 2002 is the winter term for visual communications, and it is directly related to Mpad 2001, the beginning. So I'll actually kind of talk about both of them at the same point because now they're very much continuous. And in it, we learn about visual communications and really how to tell stories through images. And in the fall, we focus on graphic design. And in the winter, we focus on photos and videos, and then as well as how to share that through web design a bit without learning specific web design tricks. And both of those terms, currently we're partnered with the National Arts Centre, which is the Performing Arts Centre of Canada. But instead of looking at the performing arts, we're looking at the visual arts that are within the building, and students pick an artwork within it and figure out a way to express the stories within it. In the first year that we did it, which is what we have here is the first year projects from the 2020, the winter of 2020. It was a group project that students worked only in the winter term to create a project supposed to be a physical exhibition, got turned into a virtual exhibition to express the meaning of these artworks. Now it's for both terms, and they start as an individual project, and they'll do different types of experiments, including mobile prototypes and web design and videos and other ways of digital storytelling. I think that kind of explains it, but I feel like I rambled a bit. Apologize. You can actually take a look at the first year projects here, the ones from 2020. There's a website link there. They're very fantastic. And for that group specifically, the one thing, as I said, it was supposed to be a physical exhibition, and then partway through the term, everything got locked down. So they had to complete the projects and figure out how to present them online, as well as with no access anymore. So it's very fantastic what they did.
Thanks. And then for the third year students, actually, Dr. Sojong Bang, who joined us in January as a postdoctoral fellow, which is a fancy term for a researcher, she taught the iTech 3100 immersive storytelling course. And again, because the course was taught online, she focused largely on online delivery models to support students. And what they ended up doing She, to backtrack a little bit, is a award-winning international VR filmmaker. And so she leveraged that expertise to share her skills and sort of some of the secrets of the trade with our then third-year students to help them learn how to create scenes in Unity for VR films, set up cameras, fly through camera angles, lighting, texture mapping, all different types of things, and to create their own stories. And for that course, since again the program is focused on nonfiction storytelling, what she had the students do was create a short film, 2 to 4 minutes in VR on their COVID-19 experience, so autobiographical film. And then what's really amazing about this was, so the term ended in April. Students from the course, about 8 of them, decided to continue working with her to refine their projects over the summer, so not in the context of a course. And then these films were bundled together and sent to the 5 Hours Virtual Reality Film Festival, and just premiered actually at the film festival in LA last month. So for these amazing students, they now have a VR film that premiered at a VR film festival in their portfolios, thanks to Dr. Bang's amazing work with them. This is featured on our Instagram, which is part of our booth link. So if you want to go back and check it out, this film was released recently, and there's a small trailer for the VR film there. And then Steffi, would you mind talking a little bit about Capstone?
Yeah, so this is the first year that the Capstone Project has actually come to fruition, because this is the first ever cohort finally reaching their 4th year, which has led to an experimental phase of what the Capstone Project looks now and may look like in the future. So I currently have been teaching the Capstone Projects, and essentially what students have been doing is because it's the first cohort, it's quite small. There's 3 groups, and they're working with organizations within the Ottawa community to create either a social media strategy or an online strategy for these organizations. So essentially, I gave the students the opportunity to choose their organization and use the skills that they've developed throughout the last 4 years of their degrees to do a project with that organization that will benefit them, but also the student's portfolio. One of the projects that I do want to talk about that because it's the first semester, I should say that this is a 1-year project, so you'll be working first in the fall semester and the winter. But in terms of where we're at right now, students have been developing proposals. I'm currently reviewing them with them and speaking with the organizations about what they need. And one project that I want to emphasize was we have a group of students working with an art gallery to look at the permanent collection and create a online exhibition of that collection. So creating a 3D rendering of the exhibition, similar to what they've worked with Katie to do, and to talk about a specific exhibition that's happening. Others are working with granting agencies to create an online social media platform for the agencies to promote the grant and also promote the recipients of the grants. So that's a really fun, exciting project because it works with their skills in social media development, but also in website making, in videography, because they're doing videos and interviews with recipients, and in promotion and advertisement. And then our final group is doing something very similar with Saunders Farms, which is in Ottawa as well, but creating more interactive opportunities for the farm to promote their needs. And because the farm, at first glance we'd be like, well, why are they working with the farm? But this farm actually has planning and events throughout the entire year. So it's a really embedded, important organization in Ottawa, so they're helping promote those events further. So that's all super exciting. Oh, sorry, Harold would like to say hello. So if you are here, you will meet most likely Harold at one point in time. So here's Harold. But what I wanted to emphasize too is one of the things that I've been working with students is, although they're doing these individual groups, part of their experiential learning opportunity and their participation is actually to curate an exhibition of this work. So at the end of next term, everybody will be able to show their works they've done, invite the organizations that they engaged with, and invite prospective employers to come and see their portfolios so that they can engage with that and use that as another CV line. So it's still in the experimental phase, but it seems to be working as well as it could be during COVID. But you will see that it will be designed specifically to benefit your needs as prospective employees and where you'd like to work later. So that's the goal. Do you agree with that, Harold? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. So Katie, did you also want to talk a little bit about the Storytellers program that just launched?
Yeah. So I guess I'll also, there might be another slide later too, but take this opportunity just to tell everyone that they should check out BMPD's social media, because a lot of what students are doing is on it. It's very student focused. And this week, if you are on it, you would have seen that there's a launch of a new project called Bmpd Storytellers. And what this is, well, to be honest, when I first pitched this project to the school, I was pretty much saying like, well, it'll be a way to share stories, but I don't know how it will be because the students will decide. And then when I approached the students, I as well was just like, but you get to decide what it's going to look like. And the main point with the project, which is a website that then has weekly content updated to it, is that the storytellers that are starting, Jada and Max and Xingpeng, who's not featured right here, will be releasing weekly content that they've created these stories to communicate kind of the purpose of like everything that we do at BMPD, not focusing on BMPD, but what we care about, technology and how to use it ethically to tell stories. So Max is doing a bi-weekly podcast. That's an interview podcast called Our Connected Futures. He's already interviewed a few people or have them lined up to interview. Jada is exploring the idea of the reality virtuality continuum, where she's making a story about like the day in the life of a BMPD student, but then each episode will gradually become more virtual in its storytelling capabilities. And Xingpeng is the person responsible for helping to create the website, and he'll also create some great like a roadmap to all the different BMPD tools that matter. So definitely check it out. I'll write the address in the chat. Hold on.
Move the chair there.
I've put the address in the chat for everyone to see. It should be really good. I'm really excited about this project, and the plan is for it to continue to grow and grow. So maybe you can be a BMPD storyteller. So
Thank you. I think one of the best things I think about the social media channel is the fact that Katie actually set up so many student takeovers and opportunities for students to share their work and share their voices on the channel. So you'll find, many of the posts on there are actually from our students. So I think the social media channels are a great way, when you're trying to think about, what university you want to go to, what program you want to be in, and you can meet faculty and you can ask questions and you can pick up pamphlets and things like that. But what better way than to go see what students are actually saying, what kinds of things they're posting. So when they do the takeovers, for a whole week, that's them sharing what they're doing, what they're working on, what classes they're enjoying, and things like that. So it kind of gives you a bit of a window into sort of what it's like to be in the first, second, or third, or fourth year of the program. We also, over the summer, featured many of our co-op students who had different co-op positions, both within Ottawa and outside of Ottawa. So there's lots of really great opportunities there. I do know very briefly, since I'm on the topic of co-op, is that students can do co-op in Ottawa or closer to home. So there's opportunities to pick up positions that aren't just in the Ottawa area. This brings me to career prospects. So some people ask, what kinds of areas are your students getting work in? What types of industries? And what's really interesting is, I would say even before the pandemic, because so much online content, digital content, interactive content, there's really no limit of places where people might find work following their time with us. And so things like charities and nonprofits often use digital media, social media, other types of interactives as part of their storytelling vehicles, fundraising methods, things like that. Non-government organizations, corporations, businesses are very big on their social media presence, developing new and innovative digital media strategies. Media organizations in general, so not just journalism, but other types of communication organizations that run sections of their business just for their online and digital voice. Healthcare and environment as well too rely on digital media storytelling in order to share what they're doing and to basically share their story with the world. And educational and research institutions, many of which that are developing new technologies, new applications, have new initiatives, need to find ways to share those with others, and governments, of course. So different types of careers then. This is based a little bit on some discussions that we had, but also some of the types of co-ops that our students are going into. So things like a user experience designer. Maybe even just to backtrack a little bit and think about when we put stories in different digital media formats, it's not just as simple as someone writes a script or a story and then we just copy and paste it into augmented reality or virtual reality or a digital game or a website. It takes a great deal of expertise to understand how one takes, say, a linear or text-based story or even a story concept and actually makes it work on those different platforms. So a user experience designer, someone who looks at not only making sure the story maps properly onto that media, but also, is it a good user experience? There's a whole field of human-computer interaction, user interface design that focuses largely on making sure not only is something usable, but is it an enjoyable user experience? This is a really big deal, especially in VR, when you don't want people getting sick. Digital curators. So many museums, even before the pandemic, again, I could probably say that for every single one of these jobs, had digital archives, presented digital exhibits. Sojung Bang has a lot of experience with virtual exhibit creation. I know Steffi's done some similar work as well too. And then of course, Katie with Sims. So different ways of curating and presenting artifacts digitally, arranging them, basically presenting them for consumption. Social media content creators. A lot of what happens there is not only understanding what it means to put a story on social media, but that not all platforms are created equal. And there's often a lot of tweaking, not just simply reducing the amount of words or changing the number of pictures being posted, but how do you effectively present stories across multiple media? And if people in that role may be doing it for small startups, they may be doing it as part of a large communications team. So these types of professionals basically need to be able to interface with many different departments in order to keep their company's message engaging and effectively using all platforms. Technical editors for said platforms, digital marketing specialists, especially if you add the entrepreneurial minor to the degree, production coordinators, web developers, the list really does go on. And as Katie mentioned, we highly recommend you follow us on our social media. My favorite's the Instagram, but they're all fabulous. And it's just a really great way to see what we're doing in the program, what our students are doing in the program, what types of projects are coming out, what kind of research, and there's no limit to all the amazing stuff that goes on there, especially the chonkers. We really appreciated the Carleton groundhogs being featured.
Yes, if you go on social media and look at the post from Reading Week, it was the groundhogs of Carleton, images that were made from a scavenger hunt activity at the beginning of the term for students. So very amusing. It was the highlight of my week. So.
Yes. There's a whole subculture, basically, of people who appreciate the groundhogs in Carleton, and their nickname is the chonkers, and so there's all kinds of really great jokes about that. So that's basically the presentation, but we're still here for another 30 minutes or so. So feel free to ask questions. We will definitely be happy to answer them.
I will say on the topic of social media, I mean, we can't emphasize how much Katie has done. But one of the things that I really, really enjoyed was when we faculty got to take over, because it was one of the first times that I think I'm fairly new here, so it was the first time that the students got to get to know me. But also, I got to know things about Katie and Vicky that I didn't know either just by that. So definitely also check out when we take over, because it's fun. It's fun taking over.
Yes.
It's fun taking over the world.
I think I just want to draw attention to one of the question and answers questions that was, does media production design offer a minor itself, or are there other minors similar and possibly taught by your faculty? Is there a certificate or something students of other programs can obtain with the department's faculty? So I already said that there was no minors, but I thought maybe we could elaborate a bit more on that, or if Vicky can elaborate more on that.
Presently, there's no minor. It's not something that we're completely object to in the future. I think largely the reason. Hi, yes. largely the reason why it doesn't exist right now is because it really is designed where the 4 years of the program, those 12 core credits, really are building towards something at the end. And so I'm really not sure how we would conceivably chop that down into kind of like a 4-credit package and still have students be able to sort of do the kinds of projects that our students would be doing in 4th year. It could be something in the future, but keep in mind when we say that, these things usually, from the time we say go, take at least 18 months to be made reality. So at this time, we're not looking at one.
Oh my god. Sorry, the dogs, I can just see them in the back behind my chair, and here a Tux is in a cone.
So that's okay. My 4-year-old, I sent a message minutes ago asking for help, and none has arrived. So I think this is my help.
If there are there any other do people have any questions right now? I see one in the Q&A. So is admissions based on grades only, or is there a supplemental application? I can, Vicky, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to?
Sure. I mean, it's based on having the math as well as the average with the 4U or 4M credits. So it is. There is no portfolio or anything else.
I know previous
Help has arrived.
yes, I know previous students or prospective students have always asked about the math course, and if there's other classes that might be able to work if you don't happen to have the specific math credit. And for that, the best way is to talk to email Pam Lamba or I think admissions specifically, since there are other options that count. Just that's kind of the technical behind the scenes things that we're not as equipped to answer.
I know some people will also like try to transfer from within Carleton, but again, if they don't have the math, it doesn't work for them. So yeah, just reaching out as soon as possible if you're interested, because there are different ways to get the necessary math. So just making sure that you have it so that when you join us, you can hit the ground running and partake in all the great courses.
This is Tux. Gosh.
Jealous of Harold.
They only want to be in my proximity when I'm in a really important meeting.
Yeah. The only reason the dogs aren't here is because they don't know how to use doors. Co-op. So you apply for co-op at the start of the 2nd year of the program. You basically apply and they check your GPA to make sure that you meet the requirements, and then that sets a string of events where you do some sort of pre-co-op coursework to get prepared for co-op, and then the co-op office working with us will help pair you up with the kind of placement that you're looking for, based both on sort of the areas of skill sets that you've been gaining that you're interested in exploring the most. So if you want to look more like a communication side or marketing side or more hands-on technology side, graphic design, anything like that, as well as geographically where you'd like to be working. So like some people, as I mentioned before, like to go back home for those positions so that they can maybe save a little bit of money on living costs and then reside with their family while they're doing their co-op work terms. Co-op typically begins in the winter term, 3rd year. So that's usually when you do your first placement. And generally you look at the winter term of 3rd year, the summer term of 3rd year, and then the fall term of what would have technically been your 4th year. And then what happens is you rejoin the regular program stream in the winter of 3rd year. So it adds an extra year to the program, but co-op experience is extremely valuable. So I think if it's something that you're interested in, I would definitely recommend it.
So you're technically finishing in 5 years.
Yeah, if you do the co-op. Yep. There's no math sections in the program. So unlike maybe computer science or interactive digital media, where they do also take math courses, once you're in, you're not taking any math courses unless you would like to minor in math. It's just a requirement to set you up for the programming classes, just because they use some of the types of mathematical reasoning that's covered in the advanced functions course. But yeah, once you're here, if you don't want to have a relationship with math outside of programming, you don't have to.
Sorry, that's my dishwasher.
I thought it was mine.
It sounds like my washing machine.
So,
It is.
so that's actually to talk about all the different applications that you can have in a future job. Uh, for my house, all of my appliances are on Wi-Fi, and there's an app that I interact with them. And that kind of thing is even kind of the stuff of how we interact with our everyday lives, because we're all connected now. And if you've ever used an app that's poorly laid out, you know how important it is to have good design. And that's about, communication really, and about that storytelling of how to turn your oven on from across the room.
Which doesn't sound like storytelling until you're trying to do it.
Yes.
There's not that people might be thinking about grad school today, but there's also some of our students have been talking about that now because we finally have a fourth year cohort. And some of them are looking at the Masters of Information Technology here, which is housed out of the School of IT, our partner program. And so there's a possibility to fast track that by taking a couple of master's courses out of the program in your fourth year, having it count both as electives in your undergraduate studies, but also knock some time off of the master's too. So if someone was interested in those types of projects and thought they wanted to get a master's on top, that's one possibility.
And one thing that I just want to say about this program is that since it's a small program, we have this advantage of, the fact is you have all of the full-time faculty members here at this session. And that's because it's small, we all care. Not to say that others don't, but we feel more connected with the students. We know students' names. We want everyone to succeed, and then we make the courses in a way to have it so then it's this more of engaging, interactive community. And just for anyone who chooses to apply, it's definitely worth it. I would have loved to have been able to apply to this course when I was younger. So now I just get to be a part of it in a different way.
To add to that too, transitioning to university can be really stressful because it's very different from high school. I remember my high school teacher saying, no one will know your name, no one will care, do all your work and whatever else. And it turns out that that's mostly a lie. We care. Maybe there's some programs where they don't, I don't know. But I always tell my students, especially in the first year class, this class isn't designed to weed you out. This isn't some kind of engineering, look to the left, look to the right, two of you aren't going to be here next term kind of thing. I don't expect anyone comes in with programming skills, design skills, camera skills, anything. I'm here to build you up. So I assume we're all starting at the same level and we go from there. The course is designed to train you, not to weed you out or stress you out or kick you out. It's the exact opposite.
It's also kind of what I'm realizing the longer I'm here is there's something really interesting between the three of us. So we have very individual skill sets, and the ways in which we've been curated to teach you have been in a way where it's Vicky has this really strong knowledge at the beginning sets of getting you situated, whereas Katie does too, but Katie brings in that knowledge to really support you throughout the term, and I'm kind of here to just teach you how to move and fly forward after you've used those. So we've kind of, as you get to know us, we each have our very individual expertise, but also we're kind of really situated in this position that every aspect of your degree, whatever year you're in, you're gaining something knowledgeable that are going to help you not only for the now but in the future. So if you ever get those moments where you're like, I don't understand why this is important in the future, don't worry, by the time you get to me, I will teach you why it's important. There's so many things that I wish I was told in my undergrad, even in terms of what jobs I could have. If I knew that I could be a media producer for Dungeons and Dragons, I wouldn't be here right now. I wish I knew that was a thing I could have did a degree in. So it is really nice to have that curation of when your time passes here, that you're building at every step.
And there's lots of opportunities for people to build their interests in. I remember in first year with one cohort, Like, one person who might be interested in esports does their project about esports, and one person who's interested in, immigration issues does their project about that, and then somebody else who's interested in fan fiction builds a project around that. So it's like it's not as though every single class you come into and we say, today you're building, a website about hot dogs. It's like we're not totally dictating every aspect. There's a lot of room for creativity and for you to take your own interests and pour them into the projects that you're doing in each of the semesters, in each of the courses.
And I guess as one last comment, I just want to say that both Steffi and I are wearing the first ever BMPD swag, which was designed through a student competition, a design competition this summer. So a bunch of students pitched designs, and then all of the other students voted, and they were available then to purchase. So this is something we're hoping to continue, and it's these little ways that students are able to, to flex their design muscles and their storytelling muscles through this. So it's lots of fun.
Based off Tux's face, you would never know it's a fun program. It looks so sad.
The class that I do in the winter, we learn all about augmented reality, and so the platform that we're actually developing all of our projects on was developed by Snapchat. And so what's actually kind of cool is by the end of the course, you can develop, actually, say by like week 4, you can actually develop your own custom Snapchat lenses and then share them with your friends. So it's kind of this extra cred that you get in addition to becoming an AR storyteller, is you get to make Snapchat stuff for your friends.
Oh, I love that question. If you were to compare this program to like 3 high school extracurricular clubs. Oh.
Okay, high school was a long time ago.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, it was really recent. So I don't think I knew of any of the clubs at my high school.
I mean, like AV club, I think, definitely.
So I was definitely that kid who did student government. So I find that very relevant to my research as somebody who's going to teach you civic engagement and storytelling. So that is probably, one of them for me as a student club. Performance in a like art-based club. So anything that for me was any type of curatorial thing or showing student work. I mean, I'm sure high school has changed a lot since I've been in high school, so I don't even know what relevant clubs are right now. I'm sure you have like a yearbook club that would be something that's kind of relevant to capturing moments, and now I'm sure that's all happening on social media. Video game clubs. In undergrad, I was in a club. It was called a zombie club, and essentially we would do like real zombie hunts, like D&D club. Those are things that I would say were relevant.
So, yeah, I feel this question is tricky, especially considering so many students choose different minors and therefore change really what their whole degree is. And when it comes to, high school extracurricular clubs, I mean, obviously anything that has to do with digital technologies would be connected, but really like an entrepreneurship club, lots of people are focused on that. Some people are focused on data visualizations. Other people are focused on film studies and really care about that. There's some people that are already making films and things. Photography club, obviously. I know that there's now like integration of like making of games and coding in schools too. So all of that. I went to an arts high school, so I'm just thinking that it's like all of my program was it. So it's really anything that you want it to be in the end.
But all the best ones. You totally customize it. I think that's the coolest thing. I think like 2 people that go through this program, even if they chose the same electives, would still not be the exact same kind of storyteller, because they're going to gravitate towards certain media. They're going to enjoy different types of storytelling more. They might level up their skills within a team on a different aspect of production. So it really gives you a chance to like really sort of multi-class and kind of, yeah.
The way you explained that was so video game like. You would have
I was
multi-class.
thinking I'm part bard and I'm part rogue.
Yeah, I'm usually like a rogue wizard, rogue sorceress.
So for the question, does this program transition easily to film production? Trying to think about how to answer that specifically. We learn film during COVID. Things have all obviously changed exactly that in the visual communications course, instead of focusing on film production per se, we focus on composition using photography and film. So there is, and then other times later on, hopefully there'll be more hands-on with some cameras. And then really for try to think, Vicky, do you have an answer for exactly of how it can transition to film production?
Well, I mean, so from my experience working with Sojung on the project in the summer, I mean, there's sort of the producer side of things versus the making. And I mean, I think it depends too on the types of projects they do. Like I know if Sojung or someone like her were to teach that third year course again, then they're going to learn quite a bit about VR documentary making. And if they take courses on the iTech side, or maybe in one of your classes where they create a video project, then yeah, they're going to learn a lot about that. And they do have access to the editing suites and things like that. They could add journalism courses that focus particularly on those tools if they want to expand into them even more. So I think like this degree paired with film could be a really great pairing for someone who's interested in that world. But again, it sort of lets you kind of make of it what you want to.
I think what I would say in terms of film, I spent a lot of time integrated in the film and media department at Queen's, and I would say that this is more on the media heavy side. And in terms of film, there is a difference between film and video. So that's one of the main things theoretically you would learn in the film department, is that film is done specifically on film, on strips of film. So we don't actually here, I would say, have access to that. But video production, which is the digital aspect, is doable. So if you're interested in the digital video component of filmmaking and editing, then that's possible and definitely something that is doable. I would just be very careful, like in terms of terminology. A film program, you will have the ability to work on film, which is something that's very rare these days because we're transitioning more into a digital field. So we have the digital aspect. Unfortunately, we wouldn't have the film. That being said, a lot of film and media programs are developing to do more and more what we're doing. So at Queen's right now, from where I've worked, they're moving into more of this animation and this digital media that we're doing. So now they're hiring VR and AI and that type of aspect. So in some ways, we're kind of ahead of the curve of what film and media are doing, but also acknowledging the terminology is really important there.
Just a question for anyone who's coming from abroad. Are there special tests like the IELTS exam? Is that important?
I would check with admissions for sure because I don't know all the details about that, but all that information should be on the admissions website, which should be linked in the booth. I don't want to misspeak about like what type of score is required, but I'm pretty sure there is a requirement.
And just for questions also about like if you have any questions, if you're from abroad and you're wondering about if English isn't your first language, I don't know if that's what that test is, but there's a writing class in second year that helps try to improve everyone's writing in general. And this is not a course that has as much of a requirement for writing all the time. There is writing in almost every class, but it is something that you will be able to develop your skills and be fine.
Yeah, it should be on the website. I had it in part of the presentation, but you might not have been here for that. So I will search for it really quickly because I know Pam put it on the website. But we do have a really great flow chart that was created for the program because navigating it with the combined options can be a little bit tricky. Let's see if I can find it. It's the kind of thing that I'll probably find later on, but I can really quickly show the one from the presentation, if that helps. So this is the one that we showed earlier, and it is available on the website. I just can't seem to track down the link fast enough. But this shows the progression. It's arranged by year horizontally. So you'll see the fall term of year 1, followed by winter of year 1, and it goes through accordingly across the 4 years. As we mentioned before, if you do the co-op option, that would begin in the winter of year 3 and would conclude in the fall of year 4. So then it would take 5 years to complete the program instead of 4. But the course progression is basically shown there. And then the arrows basically refer to the prerequisite order. So for example, you'll see at the middle top Mpad 1001, Intro to Storytelling, the arrow indicates that it's a prerequisite for Mpad 1002, the hands-on workshop course. Yeah, if we can track down that link, I'll try to put it into the chat though while we're here.
So just to explain what for co-op, it's if you choose to do co-op, then it's a paid experience that's approximately 3 terms that you apply for the different jobs. That it's a great opportunity, and all the students who have done it have said that that they've enjoyed it. And then I think the biggest piece of advice that I took from it was the students in the program. For one, you guys, all the skills learned before co-op means that you are talented in multiple areas and can help. And then also that co-op is a learning experience that you should be not afraid to ask questions and ask for help, and then ask for opportunities within it. So do we expect the program to be offered on campus fall 2022? That's a very good question that has not, really depends on the world. I think we all can hope that it does. So that, yeah.
I mean, that's obviously our preference personally. It's always, enjoyable to teach people face to face, and you can get to know people better and everything else. We're really lucky that the type of work we do maps really nicely to online work. For people who end up freelancing, a lot of what you end up doing actually, even before the pandemic, was Zoom and phone calls and, digitally sharing updated versions of prototypes and things like that. But yeah, we hope that it's in person.
None of the courses are going to be changed to permanently online for that question. Well, none of the Bmpd core courses, as I understand. Yeah. Just what we've been doing for the courses for myself, I know it's kind of like a hybrid mix, and we, if any program is going to know how to figure out how to make it so then we can still make engaging content while learning virtually, it's the course that really online learning and teaching that way is like a case study for what media production design is for. So I think it has worked relatively well, but we will, it will be in person when we can be in person.
It's crazy how much VR blew up over the last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The amount of jobs now for VR AI instruction is incredible, which definitely is a testament to how much the pandemic has changed our culture. It looks like we need to wrap up.
So I just wanted to say it's very nice seeing all of your questions and getting to introduce the program. We all like the program a lot, so could probably talk for hours more, but you have other places to go. So thank you.
Yes, thanks so much for joining us. If you have any further questions, reach out, follow us on social media. All that information is in the booth, so all the links to our Insta and everything.
And just from a question that I saw, this is being recorded. Is the video available elsewhere? That is not. That I don't
Sarah, do you
have
have
it.
that information?
Yeah, it says it's currently being recorded.
Where it would be shared to, just in case people wanted to come back and view it.
So yes, the video will be available on the admissions website. So if you go to the admissions website, you can see it, likely available on Monday. So by all means, check it out, share with your friends, and feel
Tux
free
and
to
Harold.
remember to email admissions or the undergraduate administrator for BMPD if you do have further questions.
Yep, media production at carleton.ca.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.